Pinterest is one of my favorite sites to use. It's been the place for outfit ideas, visual elements to place in my videos, and just some overall aesthetic pieces. But then, there are times I get some rather unsettling pulls, which brings us to today's video. There are a handful of creepy images that make me question their origin. Like, am I just looking at art, or is there something darker going on? The first image I want to talk about is one I initially saw on TikTok back in 2023, before I saw it again on Pinterest years later. As you're seeing right now, we have a group of bandmates covered in blood. When I first saw this picture, I already assumed there was nothing dark behind it. It's not uncommon for bands, especially those that lean into the heavier stuff, to use really edgy imagery and props. Although I still thought the picture looked pretty sick and a little unnerving, considering I didn't know the full context. Then I continued to scroll without a second thought. That was really stupid of me, because I got super into Visual Kei weeks later and randomly remembered this image's existence. I struggled to find the account that posted it. Looking up Japanese band covered in blood gave me all kinds of varying results, but not what I was looking for. I gave up my search pretty quickly and sent this image to the back of my mind. That was until a week before writing the script. I was scrolling on Pinterest searching for cool outfit ideas. Then I suddenly came across this image again. Immediately, my 3-year-old question was answered in the comment section. This image is BTS from the music video for the Machine Gun Elephant song, Dead Man's Galaxy Days. To give some background, TMGE is a Japanese garage rock band that was active from 1991 to 2003. They had 4 members who all met at Tokyo Meijin's Gakuin University. If you're wondering where their weird name came from, it's because a friend of theirs mispronounced Machine Gun Etiquette, which is the name of an album by The Damned. I also want to say that the guitarist Futoshi Abe and the vocalist Yusuke Chiba have both since passed away, so rest in peace to both of them. Circling back to the music video, it's kind of simple. There's the aspect that they're in a dreary room all covered in blood, but that's all it is. No origin of where the blood came from, no crazy scenes in between, just the band singing. I think the visual elements are there because they look cool and scary, and honestly, that's all that really matters. There's just something about seeing fake gore in old school horror movies. The practical effects are so obviously fake, yet they're endearing and nostalgic to look at. I feel something similar with this music video. That nostalgia is supported by all the other visual elements, like the members' fashion and hairstyles, and the camera quality. The song was a part of the band's 2003 album, Sabrina No Heaven. In terms of how it sounds, the riff is grungy, yet so catchy at the same time. You'd think with visuals like those, they'd have a much heavier or gothic sound. If I were to compare the song to others, I think it's more in tune with other J-rock bands, like Number Girl and Asian Kung Fu Generation. I'd even compare it to some divorced dad rock stuff, like the Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam. Listening to music in another language always creates this unique experience, and with Japanese, you're hearing lyricism in such a fascinating way I can't describe. When I translated the lyrics into English, the "hold up, this writing is fire" gif popped into my head. I wish I had more interesting things to say about this music video, but information on it, as well as with the band, are pretty scarce. Anyways, I'll just move on to the next image.
The next image is this eerie photo of a man in a dilapidated room seemingly praying to a Fluttershy plush. Wait a minute. This isn't my video.
Horror and girly aesthetics are total opposites, yet go so well together. Egg-chan's Diary, Lacey Games, Madoka Magica, and literally 90% of My Little Pony fan content. Seriously, these poor ponies end up being in all kinds of disturbing scenarios, but one specific case I want to talk about is with this image. We have a man praying to a Fluttershy plushie in a dark corridor. Jesus, what could possibly be the context to this? Taking a closer look, it becomes clearer that the Fluttershy plush was edited in. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the exact photo of this Fluttershy plush, although I was able to figure out the model based on the main texture and the wing shape. This plush is the Build-A-Bear Workshop version that was released on November 29th of 2013, a whole week after the show's 4th season premiere. The original photo of the man praying could be found through a simple reverse image search, and it turns out, the man was actually praying to a toilet. I think I prefer the plushie. Putting the OG photo through Tanai, I was able to trace it as far back as 2018 to a site called tagsfeed.com. What that site is, it's basically an archival site for Instagram posts. Unfortunately, it's shut down, and I couldn't rely on the Wayback Machine either. On the Tanai page, it seems that the earliest post was made by a user named Harambe's Right Nut 6969. With a name like that, it's more likely that they're not the original poster and are simply a meme repost account. The username is also not linked to any current account on Instagram. All in all, the search for the original image is at a dead end. If I were to guess, I think the guy was just urban exploring with his buddies and thought it'd be funny to pray at this randomly placed toilet. I don't think he knew that this silly picture would blow up the way it did. I sure hope he acknowledges his small cultural impact. Our next image shows a man in a suit next to a tall angel in a field of grass. This image has not only made rounds on Pinterest, but also on TikTok and on SoundCloud rappers' covers. And for good reason. This picture has that super specific aura. The clear sky and the field create a sense of peace, but the lower saturation gives it a bit of gloom. Is the man in the picture just chilling? Or does he have that unspoken sadness? And then the angel, is it a guardian or is it a looming threat? Finding the image's origins was actually pretty easy. A simple reverse image search will take you to the British BBC anthology series, Play for Today. Specifically on the 16th episode of the 4th season, titled Penda's Fen, the description says the following.
Late spring 1973, and pastor's son Stephen must come to terms with his own identity amid societal pressure, religious guilt, and his own imaginings.
IMDb labels the episode's genre as folk horror, as well as mystery and comedy, quite the odd mix. Within the hour-and-a-half episode, the frame appears during the 30-minute mark. Let me just say that the feelings of tranquility mixed with unease are boosted when you watch the scene in full. The seemingly normal TV episode just turns itself around once this angel appears. Both the protagonist and the audience share the same question of, was that angel actually there or was it just a hallucination? Of course, this scene is only a small part of the full episode, which you can go check out for yourself on YouTube. Its age definitely shows, but that makes it cozy in a strange way. I still found myself unsettled by certain scenes, and that's emphasized by the fact that I grew up religious. If you're someone who likes classic horror and has had some sort of religious trauma, this episode is for you. I can't speak for the whole show, but this episode made me look forward to watching the rest of it. I've sat on this image for long enough, so let's move on to the next one. This next image depicts a person in an uncanny looking mask, putting their hand on someone covering their eye. Like with the others, there is a mix of creepiness and coziness from the vintage feel. Not only is that from the camera quality, but it's also from the figures' fashion and the tablecloth pattern. I've seen people compare this image to YouTube horror classics like I Feel Fantastic and Blank Room Soup, and I don't blame them. You get this morbid curiosity, that worry you just can't pinpoint. Not only has this image been all over Pinterest, but it's also been used as the cover for the song Ex-Freudin by the techno artist Lou, which has been used in a lot of edits. I hope I used the right label. Low-key, the song fits the eerie tone of the cover. Moreover, both the lyrics and the title are in German. This might be one of those rare cases where I knew the origin before I saw the image on Pinterest. Basically, the image comes from a Russian horror YouTube series titled Martyra by a channel named Napag Unawa. Despite the series' look, the trailer actually premiered in July of 2025, with teasers and snippets being released beforehand. The series' synopsis is described as follows.
Martyra is an art house series with elements of mysticism, telling the story of the life of a seamstress from the northern hinterland of Russia. After a mysterious illness, Siberian hysteria, her mind begins to plunge into the abyss of shamanic visions, erasing the boundaries between reality and delirium. With each passing day, Martyra loses control of herself, succumbing to ancient rituals that lead her to a fatal outcome. Over the course of 7 episodes, she finds the key to unraveling her destiny, but each time new details plunge her into a stupor, drawing her deeper into the labyrinth of madness. She tries unsuccessfully to resist, but the virus that has infected her consciousness turns out to be stronger.
You know how David Lynch's movies feel like long nightmares you can't comprehend? Well, imagine that, but with a Russian twist. Focusing back to the image, it's from one of the clips that predates the trailer, specifically in the entry titled Unfulfilled Desires. The frame fades in after Martyra daydreams about dancing with a man in front of a Christmas tree. The masked character in the image builds a mini Christmas tree and tries to get Martyra to drink some tea. All in all, the full scene doesn't add much context. Still, the video is very uncomfortable to watch and serves as an appetizer to the main series. I absolutely adore Martyra. The quality is insane for how unknown it is, and I highly recommend checking it out. You may even resonate with its main character and feminine themes. That line made me sound like the I dropped my feminist literature books meme. Holy shit. I actually plan on making a full retrospective video on Martyra, so stay tuned for that. Scarecrows have been quite the symbol for Halloween. Their uncanny builds give you that fear that someone is hiding in there. Going on Pinterest, you'll come across a lot of really horrifying scarecrows, and while you can just write them off as props, there's one in particular that feels a bit too foreboding. Like, does it not look like a rotting corpse? This scarecrow has even caused some commotion on other sites, getting this story attached to it.
In the early 2000s, a man bought a ranch in Texas. He noticed a scarecrow in the middle of his land. He went up to it and smelt something rotting. He took the clothes off the scarecrow and discovered that it was a human skeleton. This is the photo he took before authorities arrived.
Luckily, the story is not true. The scarecrow is actually a really well-made art piece by an artist named Marrow. He uploaded images of this piece on a blog site called The House of Marrow. Many were complimenting his craft, which I mean is well deserved. Marrow also posted the images on the Haunt forum, adding in a story for this scarecrow.
This poor fellow trespassed on the wrong farmer's property. He was beaten and tied to a scarecrow post with barbed wire, a burlap sack over his head, and left to die. He was still alive and conscious when the crows started to peck at him.
Marrow had also explained that he used masking tape and newspaper to make the prop, which is actually insane. His blog site has other works that are just as horrifying. I know it's a little too early for anything Halloween related, but I'd really recommend going through them if you have the chance. The last image I'll talk about is an odd one out, but I'm including it for shits and giggles. If you love goth music, then you've definitely seen this cover. For those who haven't, well, this is the cover for the Baja's EP, The Bella Session. Even if you're not a big fan of goth music, I'm sure you already recognize Baja's as a pioneer of the genre. To go back to the EP, it contains 5 songs from the band's first recording session on January 26th of 1979, though it was released 40 years later on November 26th of 2018. Expectedly, each song is dark and ambient, just with an additional lo-fi feel. I could go all day about talking about this classic, but we're really here for the album cover. Above the band's logo, we have a man embedded into a large bat silhouette. It's menacing and badass at the same time. The grimy monochromatic effects make it all the more striking. The reason I'm including it in this video is not only because of how it looks, but also because I was so confidently wrong about its origins. With the EP being called The Bella Session and the first song being titled Bela Lugosi's Dead, I ran with the notion that it came from Bela Lugosi's 1931 Dracula adaptation. That wasn't the case at all. Instead, the image comes from the 1926 silent horror film The Sorrows of Satan, based on the 1895 novel of the same name. I'm not one to watch century-old movies, so I've never seen either of these fully up until this point. To give a synopsis of the movie, we follow a writer who inherits a large fortune and befriends a rich dude who's actually the devil in disguise. Essentially, the message of this movie is about how wealth can corrupt, and that anyone can redeem themselves. The image on the cover is from the scene where Satan finally reveals himself. This movie is quite a hard watch because, you know, it's a silent black and white film, but I must admit, this is one of the cooler depictions of the devil. He's straight up a shadow with wings, and I think that makes him terrifying in his own right. You probably weren't too crazy with this image compared to the others, but I still thought it was fun enough to talk about. If it wasn't made clear enough, none of these images had anything sinister behind them. They are all masterclasses of art, including that Fluttershy plush one. All the images I talked about today have elements that make them frightening, yet so beautiful at the same time. As a kid, I was always surrounded by darker media, 2000s emo music videos, Tim Burton films, bleak video games, creepypastas, and all my neighbors' crazy Halloween decorations. As I grew older, I set aside my love for darker media to engage with what's trending, only to rediscover that love in my later high school years. Even now, I still prefer duller colors, slightly unsettling music, and grim storytelling. The point is, all of these images really scratched an itch for me. They all perfectly encapsulate the things I'm into. But what do you think about these images? Do you have a particular favorite? Are there any others you'd like for me to talk about? Comment down below. I would appreciate a hype, and I would also really appreciate you guys getting me to 100k because I am super close. Take care of yourselves, and of course, as usual, please have yourselves a damn good one.